And now, we'll move on to the next agenda, which is the joint plenary discussion that will be managed by our Honorable Moderator, Ms. Sekar Utami, Setiastuti, Ph.D.
Ms. Sekar Utami is one of the lecturers here in the Department of Economics. She pursued her bachelor degree in the Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Gadjah Mada, majoring in economics. Then pursued her master degree in Durham University with the major of international money, finance and investment. Then pursued another master degree in North Carolina State University, majoring in economics. And she recently earned her Ph.D. from North Carolina University with economics major. So now, without further ado, please welcome Ms. Sekar Utami Setiastuti.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Honorable Dr. Eko Suwardi, the Dean of Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Gadjah Mada. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 6th Gadjah Mada International Conference on Business and Economics. So my name is Sekar Utami Setiastuti. I'm a lecturer at the Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business UGM. I'll be serving here today this morning as your moderator for the plenary session. Okay, so the digital age has enormously changed how the society works. Okay, the business world is massively digitizing. Small enterprises are now using social media as their marketing tools. Digital entrepreneurs like Bukalapak, Gojek in Indonesia, they are breaking down barriers of the industries. They're creating a whole new business concept and creating the unstoppable force that we call the digital disruption. So what are the conventional companies do? Large companies are rapidly undergoing digital transformations. They're going from analog to digital. Okay, those strategy helping them to grow. Those strategy simply prevent them from failing, provide them the gear to strive forward to survive the digital disruption. In Indonesia, digital technology is fast becoming the core of life for culture, as we know. I bet that you all have like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook on your smartphone right now. Okay, we are the fourth highest number of Facebook user in the world. And Jakarta has been named the world's most active city on Twitter. Yeah, so it's a trend, yeah. That's why we have a lot of trending topics coming from Indonesia. Anyway, so Indonesia boasts the young, literal, digitally savvy population, which well positioned to help, these digital entrepreneurs to disrupt the digital economy in ASEAN. Okay, so the ASEAN region, has at least 7 unicorn startups, and proudly Indonesia is home for 4 of those unicorn startups. So that shows how Indonesia is a very potential market for startups, digital startups. Okay, so so sorry if I sound nervous, because I am. This is my first time moderating a plenary session. Yeah, I mean, let alone having like guests from like, from afar. So anyways, I don't want to embarrass myself furthermore. So in our plenary session, we'll have four excellent speakers who give a talk on digital business, digitization of business, and then how academics study the technology and the digitization in the business. Okay, so the first speaker is Professor Didi Achjari. Please, Pak Didi. Professor Didi Achjari is a professor at the Faculty of Economics and Business in Universitas Gadjah Mada. He earned his bachelor degree from UGM, Sarjana in Accounting, and then Master of Commerce from UNSW, and Doctor of Business Administration from Kirtland University of Technology in Perth. Okay, please give Pak Didi another round of applause. Okay, our second speaker is Mr. Destya Pradityo. He is a head of payment and financial service Bukalapak, pt.bukalapak.com. He earned his bachelor degree in Pelita Harapan University in Bachelor in Electrical Engineering, and he earned a MBA in Financial Management from Bogor Agricultural University. Please give a round of applause for Mr. Destya. Okay, our third speaker, Professor Noel Scott. He's a professor at Griffith University, Australia. He's a deputy director at Griffith Institute for Tourism. He earned his Ph.D. in PhD Tourism Management from University of Queensland, Australia. Please give another round of applause for Professor Noel. And our last speaker is Professor Vanessa Ratten. She's an associate professor at La Trobe University, Australia. She earned her PhD from the UQ Business School at the University of Queensland, Australia. Okay. So let me give you a brief format of today's plenary session. So all speakers will have 25 minutes to present the presentation materials, and then we'll have around 50 minutes of question and answer from the audience. We will have 2 sessions. I will ask for 3 questions in each session. Each session is like 20 minutes. So please stay until the end of the plenary session. If you have any questions, you can ask the speaker. And then without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker to deliver the presentation. Pak Didi, the floor is yours.
Morning everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Padikan, honorable speakers, and also honorable guests and participants. I'm quite nervous also because I'm going to be the one that present in this seminar. But I'll try my best to provide the insight into what happens of the digital economy in Indonesia at the moment. As you might know that e-commerce has become the basis of the digital economy, and Indonesia has been largest market of the e-commerce in Southeast Asia. So it's quite interesting for us to be here to discuss what is the impact of the e-commerce in Indonesia as well as in Southeast Asia. And in this morning, I would like to share current situation of the e-commerce, and also especially in Indonesia, and also what are the opportunities of research in this particular area. So the students as well as lecturer can take any opportunities of the e-commerce topics in Indonesia as well as in Southeast Asia. So I will break my presentation into 2 parts. The first part is the state of the art of e-commerce in Indonesia, and the second part will be research opportunities. So according to McKinsey, that studied e-commerce in Indonesia in 2017, just last year, and just published last month in August 2018. So Indonesia is the largest e-commerce market in Southeast Asia. Even Singapore or Thailand, they are just below our market in Indonesia. So the market is quite tremendous. At the moment, we got the $5 billion of the formal e-tailing. So when you buy something from Bukalapak, let's say in Destya here, or you buy a ticket from Traveloka, it's part of the $5 billion of the formal e-tailing. And even more, we also got the $3 billion of informal e-commerce, something that you might do as simple as buying something from your friend, or you call it, or someone who sell second-hand books or second-hand mobile phone, or just buying something from household industries. You buy food or handicraft or something from our neighbor, or even in the village in in the remote area in Bali or in the Sumatra or in even Papua. So this is something that's quite common at the moment. We can buy just anything from anywhere easily. Although we also aware that there are some obstacles in Indonesia, but there are some improvement to support the e-commerce in Indonesia. So the thing is that it is estimated 3 million online shoppers in Indonesia. When we see that we got the to around Indonesian population is around 260 millions people, so that's less than 15% of the people. They are actively buying and selling through the internet. It is more than Australian population. Yeah. So it is very big, yeah. And it's growing because, as Pak Dekan said, that Indonesia population, especially the millennials generation, they tend to be very active in this e-commerce. Yeah. So it is the online commerce is projected to grow to 8-fold from 2017 to 2022 from $8 billion US spending to the 55 to 65 billion dollar in 2020. So this is a lucrative market. So if you got a chance to buy Bukalapak shares, just do it because it's going to be very big, and you'll be you'll be very rich in the future, like Apple did when they just growing in the 1980s. Yeah. So imagine Apple at that time, and you can see how rich they are who hold the Apple shares. Yeah. Maybe Pak Dekan also has the Apple shares at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. And our situation now is similar to China in 2010. So we are 8 years behind China. But yeah, you might know that China is the most population, the most population in the world. So it just makes sense for them to be able to get that position at the moment. So it is no problem for us, but we can see that there are some obstacles that we should overcome to follow and even to make it closer to China. Yeah. And you can see that average individual spending will increase from 260 in 2017 to 620 in 2022. So it is also growing tremendously, yeah. Especially because customers tend to trust online transaction, and also it is because more medium and small enterprise move to the online transaction. And there are some driving factors, as it is said by Das et al. In the McKinsey research. The first one is mobile first market. Indonesia is also become the large mobile phone and gadget market. So you might see that everyone here busy with their gadget, even in the class, everywhere, even during the seminar as well. Yeah, so people, sometimes they don't talk each other verbally, but they just typing, even with their neighbor, with their family. They are just simply talk with the using the social media. So that changed our culture, that changed our behavior. Another driving factor is the digital savvy, young customer. So it is the population in Indonesia still like a pyramid, which the younger people is bigger than the older population. So they are the big customer that has the capability to jump to the e-commerce, and as well as they have the purchase power. Another one is the increasing MSME participation in online commerce. I will show you the startup climate later on. And the fourth one, the growing investment in online commerce. I will also show you the unicorn, including the Bukalapak, although the investor is not disclosed yet. And I think the most important thing is that supporting government policies. The government very supportive in these particular issues. So we can see that there are some issues that government trying to solve to support the e-commerce, like the taxation, the infrastructure, as well as the human resource. So government policy is quite important in these particular e-commerce issues. So this is the startup climate. We can see that it is amazing data. I just, you can just click this, sorry. Oh, I cannot see. In the startup ranking.com, you can see that, yeah, of course, the first one is United States. But the second one is India, and Indonesia become the 6th under the Germany. And Australia is the number 8. Yeah. So you can see that the government effort to support the e-commerce through the startup is quite successful. Yeah. Indonesia got a lot of startup, but the problem is that how we can make those startups to be unicorn. That's another issue. Yeah. So government should do a lot of effort to support the startup to become the unicorn. This is our unicorns. We got Gadjah. We will talk a lot about the Gadjah in my presentation. So we can see that Gadjah has the capitalization of this 61.16 trillion rupiah. It is converted during the time that $1 equal to the 13,800 rupiah. So it is now even bigger. And the investor is the Tencent from China, Didi also from China, Google. Yeah, Google became the investor of the Gadjah, and Astra International as well, because they got the interest to sell their product. As you might know that Astra is largest car and automotive producer in Indonesia. So they might want to sell the Indonesian cars as well as motorcycle to the Gadjah. So there are big investors behind Gadjah. Most of them are from China. Yeah. Traveloka, the second one, the second capitalization in Indonesia, it is 27.4 trillion rupiah. And you might also familiar with the investor, like Alibaba from China, Jack Ma, who just visited Asian Games, yeah? Yeah. And he announced that he want to be retired very soon. He is just trying to follow the Bill Gates. Actually, I would like to retire young as well. And enjoy the life. Yeah. And another one is SoftBank from Japan. But actually, Alibaba as well, owned by, not owned, but most share of Alibaba is also from SoftBank from Japan. So it is intertwined. It's very complex cross-ownership in this e-commerce area. It is quite interesting for the research. Another research topics for the corporate governance. Who owns what, where. The third one is Tokopedia. Tokopedia got the 15 trillion rupiahs. and it is owned by Expedia. Expedia is Microsoft owned as well. So you might see that the big investor from all over the world trying to invest in Indonesia because they know our potential here. Because as you might see, Indonesia population is tremendous, and most of them are young, and they got the purchase power to buy and do transaction through the e-commerce. And the last one, this is Bukalapak. They got the 13.8 trillion. I don't know, because he's the guys that who are responsible to put the right number here. So is it right? I think it's more than that at the moment. Yeah? And I said that an undisclosed investor, it's become a secret. I don't know who is the investor, the big investor behind the Bukalapak. And he might tell us this morning. So you might amazed that we got a lot of investors from all over the world. The big players, even the China, Japan, and United States as well. Google, they're trying to put their foot in Indonesian e-commerce. So it is quite amazing, because Indonesia become the biggest and largest e-commerce market in Southeast Asia. So another McKinsey survey show us that e-commerce got the socio-economic impact. This is also part of the research that we can do in the Indonesian market. Financial benefit. It can create 2.5 billion in new consumption revenue, and it become even more in 2022. It become to 20 billion. So this is the financial benefit. And another one is job creation. 4 million jobs today versus 26 million jobs in 2022. It is also part of the partner during the Gojek and Grab and any other e-commerce. And also buyer benefits. Using the e-commerce, it can help the Indonesian all over islands to get cheaper products, especially outside the Java island. They are the one who get more benefit from this e-commerce. And also social equality, gender, because a lot of household industry, they are women. So they can make revenue, they can earn their living selling their product just by staying at home. No need to go to Jakarta, to the big cities. And it is help us to reduce the problem of the population in the big cities. So strategy to expand the online commerce. The first one is the infrastructure, logistic infrastructure. As you might know, that the government now push the infrastructure. They build roads, airports, and toll road, and many other infrastructure to help the product can flow from rural area to the other area in Indonesia, and also to export it to the other countries. And also supporting the conversion to cashless payment that enables seamless, secure, and scalable payment. So it is also quite interesting because Indonesia tend to use the cash transaction. 99% of transactions are cash-based. So how can we change their number? How we can change to the, let's say, 50-50, and also even 1% of cash and 99% of cashless. So this is the challenge, and also interesting topic to be studied. And also only 15% of small and medium enterprise who use the online ordering and payment system. So there are a lot of rooms of improvement for the payment in e-commerce Indonesia. So the last one is helping MS to move online. Government has important roles to support the small and medium enterprise to be online. So, Gojek phenomenon. Yes, I think because I got very short time to finish. This is I call it phenomenon because this is a Indonesian-made company and also the largest unicorn in Indonesia. So the impact is tremendous. So that's why it is said as 17th rank, the company that changed the world by Fortune magazine. So the acknowledgement is become the 17th company that changed the world. So we can see the impact of the Gojek at the moment, including us. I myself using Gojek to buy something to the food, also just simply using the Go car or Go ride. Yeah. This last one, the research opportunities. Other than something that I have been said before, the possible topics in e-commerce are risk and trust, and also electronic payment and financial technology or fintech. This is the new frontiers that we can dig in for our research. The first one, the risk and trust. So the third-party payment, usually they are using the company like a PayPal or a bank to do the transaction, but by using the fintech, we could reduce the needs of the third-party escrow account. Time up. Okay, then there are some issues that we can further study. Okay, and the last one is electronic payment system. We can use the AEM, e-commerce industrial mechanism. GoPay, that is introduced by Gojek, is also part of the AEM. We can use it to reduce the risk. So the financial inclusion, low bank penetration. Indonesia has low bank penetration. So how can people do the transaction without bank account? So that's part of the challenge in Indonesia. Micropayment, what for? People do the transaction through the internet for something that daily activities, daily food, or groceries. So this is part of the research that we can do. The future studies, this is a research question. What factor make Gojek grow in Indonesia? It is because the O2O or online to offline transaction or any other reasons. What are the impact of unicorn in Indonesia economy, like Bukalapak? What are the impact on us for our economy? So this is part of the question. What factors to influence the use of fintech in Indonesia? Why people using GoPay? Or why people not using GoPay? So this part of the question as well. The product characteristic matters in online commerce in Indonesia? They buy everything to internet or just certain things? And the last one, does online to offline e-commerce lead to the use of the fintech? Okay, so that's my presentation. So I hope that it can trigger our discussion and also trigger our future research. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Pak Didi, for the general overview of the e-commerce in Indonesia. He talked about the potential, the development, the government policies. If we are here, as an academics, what kind of like a possible future research question that we can dig from the really big market of e-commerce in Indonesia. Okay, so we're gonna move to the second speaker, Mr. Destya from Bukalapak. The stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Destya. in Bukalapak, I handle all of the business and product development regarding money. All about the money business handled by my division called Payment and Financial Services. So all about the payment system solution, investment solution, insurance solution, financing solution, include e-money and e-wallet solution under my division. Okay, for today, it's very honored to be one of speaker in this event. I want to share how about the digital business in Bukalapak, especially from the payment and financial services side. First, it came from the internet, start from the internet. So from the internet, many technology came going to our life, such as if you know Yahoo Messenger, if you know email, start from the internet. Until now, from the internet, you can sell anything, you can get the new connection from everywhere, start from the internet. Same with our business start from the internet. So sometimes Bukalapak called internet company because the start or the basic is came from the internet. The second is the paradigm shifting. Many paradigm in current conditions start from the shopping activity. So for before, sometimes people must know the physical goods, physical things that you want to buy. For now, you only see the picture, you only, oh, the color is red, the red is pink or maroon is don't care for you. But if you see the picture, you can suffice for now. So you decide to buy the goods. Until the payment activity, maybe for the last 3 years, people like to handle cash, lot of cash for now to transact anything. For in Bukalapak, we provide the cashless transaction, so you can buy anything in our platform using the credit cards, transfer bank, or direct debit from your saving account. The prediction of macroeconomy Indonesia is very positive. The data came from the Euromonitor. The prediction for our GDP is the position is third under China and India. This very surprisingly for us because this is very optimistic to grow the market, especially in e-commerce or in digital business in Indonesia. So we are very optimistic with this prediction from the organization like McKinsey, like BCG, tell to us the Indonesia is very good market. Indonesia is very optimist market. So the prediction of economy tell the numbers. The growth is very high for our country. This is the internet growth, economic growth, and rapid technology. In Indonesia, currently the position of people who has a smartphone is only 30 million people from 260 in total citizen in Indonesia. So the potential of growth is very high. A lot of people in Indonesia still doesn't have a smartphone. Only 30 million already have the smartphone. So from this condition, I believe our condition, our economic will be growth, especially from the digital economic. The prediction of e-commerce. Currently, our position for consumption, domestic consumption, generate from e-commerce still very low. The data is under 5%. All domestic consumption in Indonesia. So from this stage, I believe if the percentage will be double, the growth is very, very high. For example, 2018 until 2020, the growth is almost 300%. Honestly speaking, my target from my CEO every year is triple-digit percentage. So this numbers is very optimistic to get to change. The change is very big. I want to share about this number. The driven factor. Indonesia internet users currently is around 100 million users. The people who have social media account is around 80% from the internet users. But people who already transaction in e-commerce still small. Only 20 until 25 million people that already transaction in e-commerce. I believe not all in this room already transact in e-commerce such as Bukalapak or Tokopedia or Traveloka. So the growth is still big at there. The number of e-commerce users still very small compared with the total of citizenship in Indonesia. The e-commerce penetration rate still below 10% compared with all domestic consumption in Indonesia. So this very small for Indonesia compared with the potential of all citizen in Indonesia. Enter Bukalapak. Bukalapak is a marketplace that provide everything you want. Basically our core business is marketplace C2C, customers to customer. So we provide the platform for everybody who can sell everything. Everybody can buy everything in our platform. We have two platforms, mobile and web platform for iOS or Android user. We sell everything from the billers such as pulsa, electricity token, until flight ticket, train ticket, is everything in our platform. Currently our size is Bukalapak accessed by 100,000 per second. We have around 3 million sellers with the section is from A until D section, and majority our customer came from Gen Y, the age 18 until 35 years old. The network effect, we create the growth, the organic growth. The picture is more sellers uploading the goods or the things they want to sell. More buyers are coming and buying. More buyers coming and buying to our platform. More sellers upload the picture in our platform. So the cycle is very getting big and big. Is the network effect to create the organic growth in our platform. There are 4 pillars in e-commerce. First is buyer, product, logistic, and payment activity. This is the main pillar in our e-commerce condition for now. The logistic flow in Bukalapak is integrated using API connection. So there's no manual intervention on our activity, especially for logistic flow. So you can track your goods. If you, as a buyer, you can track the position of goods using our apps online, real-time online. So you do not worry you will be lost or get fraud from your seller or everything, because you can track the detail your goods or your things that you buy in our platform real-time online. We connect one by one with our logistic partner. Currently we use 10 logistic partner. 11 logistic partner. Grab, Gojek, JNE, JNT, all big logistic player in Indonesia already become our partner. We integrate real-time online using API connection. So this very seamless and frictionless if you want to see the position or the status of your goods in our apps. Same as well for the payment channel. So we provide like escrow management system. A seller, a buyer, when he or she want to buy something in our platform, will be using all of payment channel. Currently, we have 12 payment channel from credit card until direct debit like internet banking, if you know, BCA ClickPay, CMB Click. So the money is transferred to our account, Bukalapak account. In the same way, we will update to the seller if they have the order from the buyer. The seller prepare the goods and send using our logistic partner. In the same time, we track the logistic partner using the API connection. So we can know the seller is trusted or not. When the buyer receive the goods or the things, the buyer have to 48 hours to confirm the goods is okay or not. If okay, we will transfer the money to the seller. So we create the escrow management system by ourselves. This is the financial ecosystem in Bukalapak. So Bukalapak still using the partner from the banking until the fintech, the financial technology, the lending or the investment side. So we divide from the money flow. If the money outgoing from our ecosystem, we call payment. If the money come to our ecosystem, we call collection. So from the partner, we develop the payment system by ourselves. We create the new connection using API, integrate one by one to each partner. Currently, we have connection with 5 big bank in Indonesia. You name it, from BCA, Mandiri, BRI, until BNI, and CMB. We already have host-to-host connection. So all the payment activity is real-time online. You can know the status of your payment real-time online. There's no friction at there. From the payment system, we integrate with our e-money and e-wallet system. And then we integrate with our financial services system. We divided our financial services into financing or investment and insurance solution. We partnering with the insurance company, fintech lending company, or the banking for the financing side. So all the system, we create the financial ecosystem in Bukalapak. We're still partnering with the banks, the insurance company, the fintech company, because we believe in this condition we must collaborate with all partner, with all. So we are not competitor of banking, we are not competitor of the fintech, because we have the core business that different with banking or the fintech. So we create the new ecosystem. We can share like this, the picture. This is one of example of our feature in financial technology. We have investment solutions. We sell mutual fund in our platform. We call Bukareksa. So you can buy mutual fund in our application. Real-time online, 24-hour, 7 days a week. You can beside the mutual fund, you can buy gold in our system. The concept is like saving account, but in the behind is gold. So you can purchase gold start from 30,000 rupiah until, yeah, you name it, maybe you have lots of money. We create the concept to bridging our customer, make the investment activity easily. So if we create the highest barrier, yeah, if you know, lots of our customer came from the lower segment, the middle low segment. So if we create the existing barrier like conventional channel, lots of customer cannot enter our investment products. So we create very low barrier. You can buy gold in our application start from the 300. You can buy mutual funds start from the 10,000. So very simple. But we have still challenge in, for example, in payment. Like Prof. Didi mentioned before, lots of our customers still using cash. Cash is still king in Indonesia. Yeah, the queen is still cash. So from the BI, the Bank Indonesia data, until now more than 85% is majority transaction using cash. The e-commerce payment channel still transfer bank is the biggest one, and the second is COD, if you know, cash on delivery. In our perspective, COD is not e-commerce, honestly speaking. Just move the transaction maybe from the mall or from the market into your home or your office, but it's not e-commerce. Still conventional channel. But yeah, yeah, on commerce. But yeah, from the data is still the second biggest payment channel in e-commerce is COD. It's about the trust. If you trust for the seller, maybe you will pay first and the seller will transfer. But currently many condition, lots of situation that buyer cannot accept the trust from the seller, especially from the e-commerce activity. We believe if we already propose this solution to regulatory such as BI and OJK, how about if we build the concept like direct debit system? So we connect to BI like a bank, but we still using the bank infrastructure. If you know, currently BI develop the GPN, Gerbang Pembayaran Nasional, is the concept same like Visa or Master. So maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, if we can connect directly to the GPN gateway, we can do the direct debit from the banks. So we believe the transaction will be double or triple from now. So there's no friction activity in payment. So there's no many click. Currently the hassle process is lots of OTP process, lots of redirect or redirecting back the page to our application, lot of friction at there. The success story of auto debit, if you know PayPal, you can register your saving account in the PayPal application. This is the sample of banks I got from the Canadian condition, and the right one is Alipay. Alipay is the payment solution from China. The concept is similar with PayPal, so you can register your saving account, and PayPal or Alipay can direct debit seamless and frictionless. The another innovation in payment is QR. If you know, in Indonesia, lots of mom and pop stores already use QR. Maybe start from the GoPay. And in China, invented by Alipay, you can pay using your smile. So you can go to store, do not bring your wallet or your card, you only bring your face and smile. Yeah, so your money is your face. It's true, because I came from China 2 weeks ago, and this technology is already there. This the another innovation in payment. So very seamless, very frictionless. You didn't need to put anything in the POS system of the cashier. So you only bring your face and smile. The saving account is deduct by system. The challenge in SME, the first is access to get the financing. Lot of banks, the regulation is very hassle. You must bring your account statement. If you know, our SME condition is very different if you compare with maybe Singapore or Malaysia. In our country, the condition is very not bad, but the statement of the financial statement is not priority for our seller in our condition. The second is the lack of relevant skill. We have a seller that can produce good products, especially for example for batik. Batik is a good product from Indonesia, but if you want to produce in big scale, in very big product, you will have the difficulties from the skill of to create in very mass, etc. And the targeting potential market or channel. So currently, if you home base in Jogja, is very difficult if you want to get the customer came from Sumatera, for example. So you must use the digital solution to handle these three of challenges. This is the innovative product for the digital credit card for the financing side. So if you know Kredivo or Akulaku, currently you can get the initial limit for financing within 5 minutes. You already get 5 million. So it's very disruptive product from the conventional channel. If you use Kredivo only 5 minutes, you will get the financing. You only capture KTP and that's it. You will get the initial limit until 5 million. If you want increase your limit, you must adding by payslip or lot of information that Kredivo wants. But for entering the financial inclusion is very easy. This is one of example the good product, especially for the financing side. Easy to register, instant approval, and very seamless for the process. So the essential products or services in Bukalapak is 3. The basic is 3. First is secure, fast, and easy. If you a product manager or a business development guy, you must have the 3 basic this in Bukalapak. This is my last slide. Yes, this is my slide. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Destya. It was very interesting. He talked about like digital business in Bukalapak.com, how the paradigm has shifted. Yeah, now consumers doesn't have to touch or like to try the product. They could just like, go to their computer screen and then choose like the color they like. It's like bringing market to the people, not like people going, like the conventional way of buying stuff is that you go to the mall and you choose whatever you want to buy, right? Now, the market is coming to your house. It's coming to your smartphone. Like you can, like I was in the U.S. for almost 6 years, so I did most of my purchasing stuff online from Amazon, Walmart, and they have all of even the big department store like Macy's, Walmart. They have the digital transformation is massive. So yeah, and I think the challenge is still the payment system. Yeah, I feel like there's Indonesian people. Most of them are they love to handle cash. Yeah. I rarely, when I was still at school, I rarely bring cash. So my wallet was like as thin as the ATM card. No, no. But I bring one card, and that could pay for anything that I need. So I think that's still the challenge in Indonesia, the payment system. So thank you very much again, Ms. Destya. Now we're gonna go to our third speaker, Professor Noel Scott.
Thank you. Selamat datang. How's that? Selamat pagi. Okay. And selamat. So could everyone, who's got a mobile phone? Everyone. Could you just hold up your mobile phone? Everyone. Hold up your mobile phone. So this is the issue we're talking about. Mobile phones are everywhere, but and we've had some very interesting discussions of people talking about buying things online. But I think that digitalization is broader than just commerce, and so I'm going to talk about some of those issues. The other thing that I would like to talk about is my background is in tourism. So I study the service economy, if you like, but I study tourism. So that's an application area of many disciplines. Many disciplines can be used to study tourism, as they can be used to study e-commerce or technology, digitalization. The particular discipline that I use is psychology. So I don't think of myself as a tourism academic. I think of myself as a person applying psychology to study tourism. And I would like you to think about what disciplines can be used to study digitalization. The examples I'm going to give are more from psychology. But before I start, I want to just briefly introduce and tell you how good Griffith University is in tourism. So we are one of the, we're thought to be the second, always second, but second best university for the study of tourism globally. And I work in the Griffith Institute for Tourism, studying tourism. When I thought back about my life and how it relates to digitalization, I'm very old. I'm sorry. So I studied. I finished my first degree in 1979, last century. And my degree was in chemistry. So I started in chemistry, and then I worked in banking for several years. Back then, there was this new technology called a computer, a PC. And we learned, and I remember in about 1985, trying to learn DOS. Does anyone know what DOS is? Huh? So then later I started using, I moved into tourism, and we had a modem. Oh, has anyone ever used a modem? Yeah? So then many things started to change around that time. That was about the introduction of the internet. And in Australia, we introduced in the tourism area a thing called the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse. That's a place where it's a data repository for all of the information about tourism, so it can be sold through e-commerce. So that was one of my first introductions to big data, if you like. In about 2004, I used a thing called Lexomancer to understand and analyse information in newspaper articles. Now we use the same techniques to study social media. But so big data is not new. It's been around for many years. Later on, as I moved to Griffith University, I became interested in using information technology or digitalization techniques to understand how people are thinking and how they're reacting to stimuli, such as tracking their eyes to understand what they pay attention to, and using the facial recognition software that we've been talking about to understand when people are smiling. More recently, we're using EEG, electroencephalography, to understand how people are thinking. Now, is that digitalization? To me, it's the use of technology and information processing to understand more about how people behave and think. So I think that, firstly, in your lifetime, technology will change as much as it has in mine. Okay, it's going to get faster rather than slower. And so I think that you have to think broadly about how digitalization can affect your life and how you can study it, and think about using new techniques. I want to talk briefly about some of the ways that I am using technology or digitalization to study travel. So we have been thinking about virtual travel experiences. So the use of virtual reality to understand how people think about travel. And certainly augmented reality. So has anyone used augmented reality on their mobile phone? Huh? So augmented reality is where I can look through my mobile phone and see a picture that is overlaid on the real world. Excuse me? Pokemon Go is an example of augmented reality. Okay? But you can also use it to educate people about an area they're visiting. You can show people old pictures of what the place used to look like and compare that to the new picture. So that's another example to me of digitalization. One of our researchers has been using virtual reality to study how people react to different experiences. So in this example, we're using virtual reality and measuring a person's heart rate to determine how they are reacting. The virtual reality experience is about diving underwater. And we found that diving underwater is very calming. It calms you. And now they are thinking of using that technique when people have a heart attack and they have a heart operation. Afterwards, you give them some virtual reality glasses and give them an experience, and it calms them down. But there are many other uses for augmented reality or virtual reality. So at the moment, when we are training people in a hotel or even in an academic organisation, in a university, we use real world. But of course, it may be it may be good or even better to train our students or train our staff using virtual reality or augmented reality. So perhaps in 10 years' time, I will not be here and you will be looking at me through virtual reality glasses. Is that good? I don't know. Another example, which I think is very interesting, of digitalization is using 3D printing. Okay? So that's digitalizing anything and being able to print it using plastic or some other material. So in the tourism industry or in the hospitality industry, people are looking at printing food. Printing food. And printing souvenirs. So one of the projects that I'm interested in is recycling of plastic to print souvenirs. Okay? So you can recycle plastic, make it into 3D printer wire, put it into a 3D printer and print something. Very interesting. So this is the plastic recycling. This is an example from Korea of some items that have been printed using recycled plastic. But there's other things that you can do using technology and information processing. So typically this might fit into the area of studying the user experience. So we have, did you know that when you see a really handsome man, your eyes are attracted to him? Did you know that? Right? Really? And your pupils dilate. Oh, because you're interested and you want to see more information. So I can tell if you're interested in something by looking at your eyes. And there's some technology called eye tracking, which allows me to follow where your eyes are looking. And therefore, I can understand when you're looking at a mobile phone or looking at a television or looking at a computer, what you find interesting. And therefore, I can know about your behaviour or your interests without asking you any questions. So we've done some work looking at different types of marketing stimuli, advertisements, and asking people to look at them on the computer and then can tell what they find interesting and which advertisement is better. And of course, for companies which are interested in e-commerce, that's a very valuable piece of information, because each person spends only a second or two on a website. So if you can make that website a little bit more interesting, you're going to attract more attention and sales. But there's much more that you can do with digitalization. So there's been a lot of work done on analysing photographs to find out what people like about them, and also the algorithms that they use to determine if a particular photograph is beautiful or not. So perhaps we have done this. We have shown people photographs and said, which of these photographs do you find beautiful? And we've also looked at where their eyes are moving, and we've got a correlation of about 0.5 to 0.6%, 0.5 to 0.6. So that means that I can tell what you find beautiful by looking at where your eyes are moving. And the other thing you can do is you can use computer analysis techniques to recognise people's photographs. So we've been doing some work for the Great Barrier Reef to determine what photographs people take of the Great Barrier Reef, and also which ones they find beautiful. Interesting. What about in a hotel? At the moment, if I want to find out if you're interested in a particular, if you enjoyed yourself, I would say, did you enjoy yourself today? There's a different way you could do that. You could actually ask a person, just smile and tell me how much you were interested. And I can use facial recognition software to tell how happy you are. Or if you're sad. Okay? So, and of course, computer recognition and the right algorithm will also tell you your age, gender, and other factors. So I can use technology to know much more about my customer than asking market research questions. So you can also use computer algorithms to study social media and what type of posts people are making in different areas. So if you want to find out how many tourists are very happy today, you can look at their Facebook posts and look to see if certain words are there, like happy, enjoy, great, and you can then map those things to determine where people are happy and where people are sad, how many people today are expressing their happiness, and therefore you can track over time how your destination is going in terms of customer reactions. So in tourism, we're looking to use digitalization, new technology, and other techniques to improve the customer experience. And of course, we are not the only people doing this. Who's been to Disneyland? Has anyone in America? Has anyone? Oh, come on. Someone must have been to Disneyland. No one? Oh, you did. Good. Yeah, thank you. So, okay. So in Disneyland, you can get a bracelet, a band, which enables you to buy things, to get into your hotel room, and they can track you wherever you're going in Disneyland and find out where you're moving and what you're doing. So that produces a lot of data, which then can be analysed to improve your visitor experience or understand more about you and how you think and what you're doing in Disneyland. So there are many different types of applications of digitalization for hotels. We could, as I said, use facial action coding system or visual recognition to understand how you're feeling at a particular time. You could use virtual reality to turn your hotel room into anything. You can learn more about the hotel using an app, or perhaps even not check in. Use self-check-in to move to your hotel room and use your mobile phone as a key to get into your hotel. So there's lots of different things. We did some studies to look at how visitors are using technology or interested in technology in a hotel, and it's interesting. It's the same problem the previous speaker was talking about cash. It takes some time for people to move from one behaviour to another, using cash to digital. In hotels, you can use a kiosk to check into your hotel room and avoid having to go to the counter or to the check-in desk. But hotel managers are concerned that will mean less interaction and perhaps mean that the customer won't come back to the hotel. So can we replace a person with technology? Well, that's an interesting question, and perhaps you can do it in a 1-star hotel, but not in a 5-star hotel. Perhaps you can do it for business people, but not for pleasure travellers. So what's next? I talked about how much technology had changed in my life. And what's coming next? Well, there is a very interesting website you can look at, of course. It's called the Gartner Hype Cycle, and they have a map, a picture of the different technologies that are developing and then starting to be introduced. So when I first started looking at this hype cycle several years ago, they were talking about 3D printing. And they were talking about virtual reality, artificial intelligence, learning and computer vision, and psychophysiological senses. But of course, they are now happening, and that's what you'll be studying in future. But of course, there's many other technologies that are going to be coming along in the next 5 to 10 years. One, of course, is cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So in tourism, that has the opportunity to allow a destination like Yogyakarta to know all the different transactions and places that a particular customer goes to. So that's one application of blockchain. But of course, blockchain and cryptocurrencies, I think, are going to happen in the future. So who's going to study that? Eh? Is anyone studying blockchain? Okay, your job is to your job is to study blockchain. Okay. Oh no, you can't. Both of you. Robots. So one of the big things that everyone talks about technology is how much technology is helping people. But in future, will we have any people employed in the hotel sector? Very interesting question. So there are examples of hotels in Japan where they have some funny things in Japan, but they have a dinosaur on the desk, and they check you in, but it's a robot. You can buy now a robot suitcase. A suitcase that follows you as you go around the airport. And there are many other examples of robots being used in everyday life. Oh, has anyone got a robot vacuum cleaner? Huh? So, and then another thing. So at the moment in Australia, if you want some information, you're probably going to be referred to a person in India to answer your question. In future, you will be referred to a robot, a chatbot that will answer your questions and be able to help you to be referred to the right person or get information or even make a booking. So that's coming. Does anyone use voice recognition for typing? Yeah. So all of these things are going to be becoming more and more useful. So perhaps, one of the really interesting things that I found before I came here was a Google app that allows me to translate text by using my phone. So if I'm looking at a particular text on the wall and it's in Indonesian, I can translate it into English automatically through my phone. Oh, good. So what's the problem for you guys? What are you going to do in future? Well, I think it's interesting to me, I think you have to cross disciplinary boundaries and start to look at technology and digitalization perhaps with people from other sectors or other academic disciplines. So you need to make relationships with someone in the medicine area or someone in the technology area or in the IT area and work with them in a group rather than individually. And you'll unfortunately have to learn some new skills. You won't be able to just use your existing disciplinary knowledge because times are changing so quickly. You'll have to be continually learning. And I think that's everything I wanted to say. So thank you very much. It's a great future. It's very exciting, and it's wonderful to be an academic at this time because there's so many interesting topics to study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Noel Scott. So yeah, we talk about not only the effect of digitalization in tourism, but also like digitalization and research in tourism. So how are we going to use tech, like new techs like VR and AR in research about tourism? So not only using it in the tourism industry itself, like, I mean, creating the magic band from Disney, then, you know, you print use a 3D print for printing food and souvenirs and all that. But there's like broader definition and broader use of digitalization, which require us as an academic, as a researcher, not only working with people in our group in the same major, but also we need to learn new skills and engage in a community with different people with different type of skill. So at the end, we could actually answer research questions that we didn't think that we could do within our research group. For example, using the VR, you study psychology. I can't do it. I cannot do that as an economist. I mean, I'm working with macroeconomics data, but that's all I can do. So this is very interesting. Thank you so much, Professor Noel Scott. So we're gonna give the floor to Dr. Vanessa Ratten.
Hi everyone, it's an honour to be here. So what I'm going to talk about is artisan, cultural and tourism entrepreneurship. So in terms of the digital economy, it's growing really fast, but at the same time, people like people, and we also kind of have to respect our cultural heritage. So in terms of kind of my research, it's building on from some of the research I've done about entrepreneurship, innovation and smart cities in this book, that I published. So it's looking at, in terms of entrepreneurship, how can entrepreneurial ecosystems develop, and that's kind of a really hot research topic at the moment. So as educators and researchers, how can we, be part of the digital economy, but also teach our students, but also do research, collaborate with government, and also project for the future. So this is interesting, particularly in terms of the cultural industries and tourism. So there's some really interesting statistics about the digital economy and how fast Indonesia is growing. But at the same time, we see this kind of connection to culture. So the name of companies in Indonesian, the name of companies in terms of, like in Australia, there's a famous e-commerce company called Catch of the Day. So at the same time we see this digital transformation, we're still kind of seeing this connection to culture. So this is interesting, and you kind of think about culture and tourism in terms of how it's changed, but also what's the role of entrepreneurship in the digital economy. So there's a lot of different levels that we can look at, both from the firm level, but also from individuals in terms of user innovation. So how are consumers, how are people innovating, how are they connecting with business and coming up with new ideas. So this is interesting, particularly if we look at the past in terms of mentioned Disneyland in the previous presentation, but you can see the development of businesses and think about how they've grown and what they're going to look like in the future. So in the past we had bricks and mortar, but now we're seeing these online businesses like Expedia come without a store. They're online, Facebook. They start quite differently to the businesses that were traditionally prevalent in the past. So this is interesting, particularly with tourism, but also in terms of artistic and cultural entrepreneurship. So companies like Google, when they first started Google, they came up with the name Google because it means the same thing in most languages. So it's easy to pronounce, but it's also, it has pretty much the same meaning. So in terms of the internationalization, particularly in terms of the type of new businesses, it's interesting to kind of think about, the audience, in terms of the target audience, but how you can also kind of bring in the cultural aspects, in terms of digital business. So you can think about culture in terms of like pop culture, so the trends, so in terms of pop culture, shows like, American Idol, Indonesian Idol, Australian Idol, they're being pop culture, in terms of, growing and then internationalizing, but they're still having their cultural connection within their home countries. So this is interesting, particularly in terms of tourism, but also the digital economy, because we can see this grow, particularly in terms of different aspects like communications, how you can communicate. So now, particularly with the digital economy, they say that people aren't talking in sentences anymore. Like, we do all these abbreviations, and people are kind of forgetting the niceties in terms of communication, which is changing the way that digital business is also developed. So this is important in terms of changing the perspective from management towards an entrepreneurship focus. So within, the past businesses, we're looking at the management, how to manage them, how to grow, but now the emphasis is on entrepreneurship, and this is becoming more important, particularly in practice, but also in research. So the emphasis in entrepreneurship is innovation, being proactive, but also, forward thinking and being futuristic in terms of the trends and the changes that will happen in the future. So in terms of tourism entrepreneurs, they're usually characterized by, ad hoc innovations. So, serendipity, by chance, thinking about different things in different ways, but also in terms of small improvements. So thinking outside the box, doing things differently. So for example, in Australia, because of recently the GST got introduced back into purchases from overseas. So now what people are doing are buying things overseas and getting somebody else to send them back. So there's these kind of connection that people are going around the infrastructure and coming up with new ways in terms of linking in with the digital economy. So in terms of the characteristics, we can look at tourism entrepreneurs, but also think about the opportunities that entrepreneurs have, particularly within the digital economy. So in terms of their perceived expectations, but also both the small and micro enterprises, all the way to the large enterprises, will also have different kinds of opportunities available to them. So this is particularly important, both from a necessity point of view, in terms of doing business. So when we go to a shop and buy something, normally they say that most consumers will have gone online before, and then they go to the shop and they already know what they want before they buy. So combining both these perspectives is really important. So in terms of creating value, you can look at it from a tourism perspective and look at the value chain. So both from the supply all the way to how it's delivered to consumers. There's different aspects of the digital transformation that are occurring in each of those different parts of the value chain. So in terms of people, you can look at both the formal economy, but also the informal economy. So the bazaar economy, the market economy, which acts different to the traditional, large businesses that are engaged in the digital economy. So this is interesting, particularly in cultural entrepreneurs, but linking it into a person's culture, so it might be the naming, you know, of the company. It might be in terms of the way that business is conducted, you know, but the culture is also part of that digital transformation. You know, so in some different ways, you know, this culture is evident. You know, it might be through advertising, but also through education and fashion, software, IT, and also TV and radio. So we see this kind of globalization, but at the same time, it has to have a cultural connection to people and to other businesses. So some interesting examples, you know, particularly in terms of cultural entrepreneurs within Australia is Cooper Pedy. Has anyone been to Cooper Pedy? It's like Disneyland. No one, oh, one person has been to Disneyland. So within Cooper Pedy, you know, they're trying to, you know, make this transformation. So, you know, this kind of experience, but it's an underground town in Australia, located near Adelaide, and half of the people live underground. So they live underground, and it's kind of like a top tourism attraction, but at the same time, how do you connect it to the digital economy? So examples of this are, you know, particularly in terms of, you know, looking at different opals, but also building the houses and hotel accommodation. So to try and kind of combine both is important. So within the digital economy, we've got this, you know, increase in information communications technology, but at the same time, people like people, and people want to kind of maintain that cultural connection. So it's important to think about how we can do this, but also think about, you know, artisans, you know, so artisan within Starbucks, like Starbucks has their bird-friendly coffee, and they've globalized that, but they're kind of connecting it back to the culture, handicrafts, you know, and also kind of, you know, different job creators that might see a niche in the market, you know, that then has global potential. So some examples of this, you know, particularly in terms of the niche, are building customer relations, but also kind of, you know, focusing on the heritage of a region. So this might be, for example, Clunes Book Town Festival. So, you know, they said with the internet and ebooks that, you know, traditional paper books would disappear, you know, but they found that they're actually increasing, you know, so people have Kindles, you know, people read electronically, but at the same time, people like an actual tangible product, and it's also part of that, you know, connecting back to the culture and heritage. So this is an example of a Booktown festival, you know, that's focused on books, but at the same time linking it to the digital economy in terms of, you know, e-commerce and e-reading devices. Other examples are, in terms of the artisan entrepreneurship, are trying to think about different ways to kind of harness a creative economy. So with the emphasis on entrepreneurial ecosystems, you know, people are looking at, you know, in terms of culture, you know, going kind of back to traditions, but at the same time combining them with the digital transformations that are occurring within society. You know, so an example might be Aboriginal art in Australia. So, you know, the paintings, the dot paintings, that are very kind of popular overseas, you know, but through the digital economy, you know, they're selling them through online, but they're also making like greeting cards, you know, table mats, you know, printing the artwork on t-shirts, and doing it in a different way. So this is important in terms of thinking about, you know, in terms of the digital economy, how you can combine both. So you can have that cultural heritage, but at the same time, you can connect it to the digital economy. So this is interesting, particularly in terms of handicrafts, linking it to tourism markets, but also thinking about tourism experiences. So, you know, for example, Uluru or Ayers Rock in Australia, you know, has done a really famous tourism campaign with the bed of lights, you know, so they've lit up the whole area, you know, but as part of that, you know, tourists can use their smartphones and walk around the area and then get stories about the history and the connection to the culture. So this is interesting, and particularly in terms of the apps, you know, that are used, like for example, you know, in terms of that augmented reality that was discussed in the other presentation, but also in terms of different kind of, you know, technologies that the actual consumers or users innovate and then put forward in terms of businesses to transform society. So an important part of this is, you know, we're looking at big business, and it's really important, you know, the big technology, you know, IT companies, but at the same time, the artisans, like the smaller micro enterprises, are also really interesting. And there's been a lot of research attention focused on this because it has been under researched, traditionally in the past. So the artisan economy, particularly, is looking at handmade, some kind of connection to heritage. It might be like pottery makers or batik manufacturers, but how can you connect that in terms of the digital economy? So an example in Australia is a craft beer movement. So, people coming up, startups, and, designing their own businesses. So this is just an example of a startup. So they've got craft beer, and what they've done is, they call themselves bearded hipsters, so they're trying to be cool. They're trying to be innovative, but they're trying to also to tell a story. So as part of this, an example is Black Hops Australia. So they've done a video, and they're talking about in the Gold Coast craft beer, and telling the story in terms of the digital transformation, but also kind of bringing people along with them along the way in terms of storytelling. And this is an important part in terms of, the digital economy, but also kind of embedding users as part of the business transformation. So within the craft beer Black Hops, they've got their online blogs, they talk to consumers, but also they can tailor the products, to particular customer needs. So we see these, large, really multinational companies, but at the same time we're seeing these artisans, like Black Hops, the artisans becoming really popular in terms of starting up their own businesses and coming up with their own ideas. So they've got a really interesting advertising, and they call themselves the beach beer, in terms of focusing on the beach, but also in terms of their business development, they use crowdfunding. So crowdfunding in terms of websites like Kiva, Kickstarter, have become really important, particularly in terms of transforming traditional finance, in terms of making it more entrepreneurial, in terms of the way that people are accessing money and also developing their businesses. So this is interesting in terms of their backers, but also, their social media campaigns. So social media is really kind of changing to, because people can talk directly. You can talk directly in a way to celebrities. They're not going through the traditional media channels of the past. So that's really changing, the startup culture and the startup mentality. So the artisan economy is really interesting, but also in terms of the artisans, in terms of their competitive advantage. So, we've got globalization, but people still want something different. So we've got digital transformation, but at the same time, we need to kind of think about how to connect that to the culture and heritage of a region. So in conclusion, how can you be creative, new and innovative in tourism? So it's interesting tourism sector, but also thinking about, the role of research and educators. So in terms of entrepreneurial universities, it's been a really big research topic in terms of how universities are accelerating the entrepreneurship ecosystem within regions, and how researchers, educators, how can we teach students, but also conduct research to think about what's the changes that are going to happen in the future. So I just finished there. So terima kasih banyak. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vanessa Ratten. So she talked about cultural tourism, entrepreneurship, and she's talking about the artisan sector, which is actually really interesting because I think Indonesian now, we have a booming tourism industry, and most of people now wants to go to a local destination rather than going abroad. I think it's something like with the use of Instagram and Twitter to socialize, you rather, take picture of you swimming in Labuan Bajo and Komodo rather than you bringing your LV bag or something like that. So I think tourism is really booming in Indonesia. So that's the end of the presentation session by our speakers. Now we're gonna start the question and answer session. I'm going to give 3 questions for the first session. We have 20 minutes for answering 3 questions, and then going to start another round after that. So please raise your hand If you like to stand up, mention your name and your affiliation so I can write it down. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I think we have 3 already. But at the back, please. Ladies first, thank you.
So, good morning. My name is Nila. I'm from the University of Swiss German in Jakarta. I would like to ask my question to Pak Destya and maybe also Pak Didi in terms of e-commerce in Indonesia. As Pak Destya just now informed us on the motto or tagline in your company or in Bukalapak, there are security or secure, fast, and easy, right, Pak? There are 3 words or 3 mottos that which I believe is almost similar and the same to other e-commerce in Indonesia. However, as you also explained that actually from the fact or information that you explained that most of Indonesian consumer here in Indonesia still prefer conventional payment, in this case is a cash basis. And surprisingly, in my current research, I'm also interested to observe millennial in Jakarta that also show a very lack intentions using e-wallet toward the food beverage industry in Jakarta. So I use 200 millennials in Jakarta, but it also shows, a lack of intentions. So my question is, first, do you think this kind of conditions, driven factors of this kind of conditions more into the culture constraint in terms of consumer perspective, or maybe, e-commerce government environment that not really supporting in Indonesia, or other things? And next question is, what will be the next strategy that going to be taken by Bukalapak to increase the intentions of utilizations of digital payment toward Indonesian consumer? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Ahmad Maulinaufa. I'm from Fakultas of Economics and Business Universitas Gadjah Mada. I have 2 questions, especially for Mr. Destya and Prof. Scott. The first one for Mr. Destya. According to Bukalapak, I want to ask why the Bukareksa, especially for mutual funds, only provide 2 choices for investing, only especially in pasar uang. Why not in the reksadana, in stocks, or mixed, campuran, and etc.? Because it can provide the higher return than pasar uang. The second one, for Bukalapak agent or partner, I suppose as a Bukalapak partner, yes, I am. I felt that the advantages of customers outweigh the partners. So the advantages of customers is very high rather than the partners. For example, if for moment badai Bukalapak or door price, it's only for the customers. The agent or partners cannot join. And also for buying the pulsa or etc., we face some different price between the customers and agent. How about that? And the last one, in terms of research, yeah, I felt that the database or the access for conducting the research in terms of startups or technology, we feel very difficult. Maybe the topic is very interesting, but if we difficult to access the data, how we conduct the research, it's kind of constraints for us. And for Prof. Scott, I'm interested in blockchain and also the Bitcoin. Yeah, Indonesian government banned the Bitcoin transactions for many transactions rather than some countries, but also not only Indonesia. Many countries in the world also banned the Bitcoin transactions, but it's very challenging to do the research in terms of Bitcoin and also blockchain, but we feel difficulties in terms of the data access. And in Japan, the technology side of the technology disadvantages for the young people, I heard the rumor that many young people in Japan are dead due to they didn't do any activities outside their room, because all activities they can do it in their room. So the technology bring the positive benefits. For example, we can order the food by GoFood, but we didn't need go to somewhere, and our social media, we can access in our handphone or laptop. Laundry, we can order laundry or message or etc. So all activities make the people become lazy. What do you think about the arguments? Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aryana Mirza. I am a student of Master of Science in Accounting UGM. I want to ask Mr. Danang Pradityo, Head of Payment and Financial Service Bukalapak. Destya. I see the challenge in Indonesian e-commerce. It is idle money. We know that there is space of time from consumer pay the transaction until the seller get the money. It's about 7 days, I think, the space. E-commerce can optimize this idle money. My question is, Bukalapak optimize this idle money? Example, invest this idle money to other place, example in financial market. And how about the trust from the seller? If Bukalapak do this and will not run off their money. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have 3 excellent questions. I think I will let Mas Destya and Prof. Didi to answer the first question.
Okay, thank you. I have 5 questions in total. First, the constraint to use electronic payment system or digital payment system. Yes, in Indonesia the culture is still love to handle cash. In Bukalapak, we didn't provide the solution COD, the payment for COD. So we only provide electronic channel payment. So for COD, you can use our partner Alfamart, Indomart store. You can put your money and our system can conduct the payment real time online. So for Bukalapak, handle cash is very risk and costly. So we didn't provide the solution for COD, cash on delivery, because they're so risky and costly to handle the cash. The second, our solution or strategy to increase the digital payment is we have lots of promotion that conduct daily or weekly or regular basis. So you can use digital payment to get more advantage, depends on what you want. So our strategy is for now still use the promo or direct discount if our customer using our digital payment channel. After that, the mutual fund. Frankly speaking, for now, Bukareksa already sell 10 products, Mas. So money market, mix mutual fund, the and the last is the stock fund. So we have 4 asset class within 10 products. So money market is our first product. Our first product is money market. After that, 3 months later, we adding another product from the stock until the mixed products. For agent, or we call agent Bukalapak. Agent Bukalapak is our new concept to enter the offline customer. So we believe in Indonesia, lots of customers still didn't have a smartphone, still need help how to know about e-commerce. So we create the agen Bukalapak. The concept is like B2B. So we sell, the first is lots of billing at there, like pulsa, electricity token. You can pay water billing at the agen Bukalapak. So this is the first point in those area that didn't tech savvy enough. So the concept is different with the customer. So why you didn't get the advantage like a usual customer? Because the agen Bukalapak, the concept is B2B, so not C2C. I hope you understand about this. And the last one is the idle money for escrow management system. Currently, the lag time is very short, mas. The average is not 7 days because we already have the partner logistic that can deliver in the same day, like Grab, Gojek, JNE have the service that can deliver in the same day. Frankly speaking, for example, we have partnering with banks or convenience store like Alfamart and Indomart. The payment already flagging as a paid transaction is real-time online, but we receive the real fund or the real money D+2 or D+3. So if the delivery in the same day, but we still waiting the real money, the concept is we financing the seller. so we didn't do anything with the idle money because the percentage of, in average, the percentage of idle money is very low for now. I hope it's clarified enough.
Okay, I think I just got one question regarding the use of the cashless or cashless payment. So the thing is that there are opportunities for us to study what kind of factors that influence the use of cashless payment. For example, the use of financial technology. Gojek has introduced the GoPay. That's the example of the way that company trying to attract the customer to use the non-cash payment. It is more efficient to use the non-cash payment because they don't need to provide the change money. They got a less risk of losing their money, and also they can track the way money goes. So it is actually beneficial for the both parties, the customers and also the companies like the Gojek. So in my research, we're trying to elaborate those factors. For example, the kind of transaction, whether they buy for foods or they buy for groceries or they buy for the big things. It is unlikely in Indonesia they're going to use the fintechs, for example, GoPay, to buy something that big. So usually they use something that tend to be a micro payment. So I try to relate to see the connection between the micropayments and also the fintech. So the government can start with that kind of situation. So the government might encourage the company to introduce that kind of services to provide the customer with the micropayment first. After they got the trust, then they can move to something that more financially demanding, like big things, like buying a motorcycle or even cars. So we just learn. We just start not far away from year 2000. I mean, the explosion of the e-commerce is just started. I mean, in Indonesia, we learn about the situation. For example, the government just released the National Payment Gateway (CPN) just a few months ago. So the government trying to provide the services that can be used by the e-commerce company, so they can easily provide the payment system for the customer. So the government also trying hard to provide good services for the players and also for the customer. And also the OJK, or the Financial Service Authority, they also learn and they introduce many regulations to support the cashless payment system and still maintaining the risk. So they have to manage the risk. They're trying to avoid the problem in the future, because it is quite big risk if we don't regulate well. So the government trying to, in one side, they're trying to push the e-commerce for the society, but in the other way around, the government trying to manage the risk. So both interests should be parallel, run together. I think that's from my answer.
I have a question for Professor Scott about Bitcoin from Mas Ahmad. Yeah.
So Bitcoin, I'm not an expert on Bitcoin. I'm not sure if the issue is only about Bitcoin. I think blockchain technology generally has many applications apart from currency. For example, here's just an example that I've been thinking about. In Indonesia, there are many people who weave cloth, and that cloth is a cultural production which is attractive to people in Australia. But you never know if that cloth is real or made in China. And so you could use a blockchain technology to track the item from its manufacture to the owner and even resale. So I do think that, I think that there are many applications for blockchain technology in terms of guaranteeing transfer of ownership, or which are very useful but haven't been applied. Bitcoin is one example of that technology applied to currency, and of course that becomes political, because governments don't necessarily want to give away the responsibility for money to a non-government authority. And how that will work in future, I don't know. But I do know that in some countries there are experiments with this type of Bitcoin currency occurring. I think Sweden or somewhere, perhaps. There's also some examples where countries are applying blockchain technology to understand how what people are spending, and to look at the transfer, or how one person is interacting with a number of different sellers in a tourism context. But it's not really my area. Perhaps someone else might know more.
And also there's another questions about negative effects of technology. All right. Yeah. People stayed in their room a whole day and just do nothing because everything is there for them.
Well, yes. It's. I think some apps want to attract attention. Some people say we live in an attention society. The more of a person's attention you can get, the more likely they are to use your product. So, some apps, Facebook, for example, are designed to attract your attention often. And I see that here in this room, where people's attention is in two places. Listening to me, which is great, and watching their mobile phones. To me, that's addiction. It's addictive behavior, and our brains are in some way designed to reward attraction and pleasure. So if you're getting a little bit of pleasure from your mobile phone every minute, that's very important, and you'll continue to use your mobile phone. What to do about it? Well, I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe that's the future. Maybe that's the way we're going to live in the future. I don't know.
Okay, so this is the good thing about being a moderator, because I can just I have a question for myself, from myself to one of the speakers. So, all right, so we have 5 minutes of first session still. I'm gonna ask a question to Dr. Vanessa. So the artisan sector is really, really interesting, because you talk about the sector in Australia. I saw that as well when I was in the US. So in North Carolina, they have a lot of microbreweries, and then, one time a year they came to the state capital rally, and they have a beer festival and all that. But in Indonesia, I feel like this is something that we could actually do, because we have a lot of culture. So I went to Flores last month. I was 1 week in Flores. Literally, you go 2 hours from the city, you talk completely different language. You have a completely different culture house and all that. The weaving that they do is different. Everything, their daily life is completely so. In terms of potential, we're not lacking of that. But I feel like they're still all over the place. Tourists came, and then they hope that, we hope that you would buy our products and all that, but it's not it doesn't provide enough livelihood for them. So what does the government do in Australia? What do they do? In terms of organizing this artisan micro enterprises, to actually, so people in a rural area in Indonesia, they live from tourism, and I don't think that the government has supported them enough in terms of I don't know, maybe training and what did the government do in Australia?
Yeah, so in Australia, so there's a lot of government initiatives with startups. So there's a startup tourism explorer, and it's focusing on the cultural artisan sector, and educating them in terms of business principles, how to get online, how to market themselves, but also how to grow and expand internationally. So often, these are kind of linked to the culture of a region. So in terms of tourism, it's got that benefit for governments, because they can also promote their regions, but they've also got that linkage to startups. So there's a lot of emphasis on startups, how to do them, but it's interesting. A lot of the times we talk about young people in terms of startups, but there's also a lot of interest in older entrepreneurs. So post retirees, people people who are looking at second careers, and they might go back into artisan. So it might be like bakery. So there's a famous example in Melbourne, Beechworth Bakery, and they make like bread and pies, that are particularly kind of local, and they've got kangaroo meat. Kind of like stuff like that. So the government helps them through regional authorities, but they also connect them to universities. So, from universities, it's also really important too. So, universities as educators and researchers, we want to connect to the community, but we also want to see them grow and prosper. So it's interesting in terms of that kind of entrepreneurial universities. Thinking about also universities as researchers. But also, bringing in different parts of society, which is becoming much more recognised. So in Australia, it's really kind of emphasising the start-ups, but also entrepreneurial universities. So universities thinking in different ways, as educators, as teachers, but also like in terms of outreach and encouraging businesses to grow, and also kind of linking in with those businesses in terms of teaching them, some of the skills that we take for granted, like marketing, promotion, selling, but also, teaching them new skills like finance. So there's been a lot more kind of emphasis in terms of, the ecosystem, and developing them around businesses, that were previously overlooked. So in the past, we focused a lot on big business, but there's also kind of growing recognition, like, the mum and pop, the micro, small businesses are really important and really interesting, parts of the economy, both in terms of business, but also in terms of research, potential research studies too.
Okay, so yeah, I think what we're lacking here is actually the outreach and research. So we're academics here, we tend to just like, okay, I'm just gonna teach it, go home and, do research for my own, but we don't have actually, think about the impact, the outreach thing that we could do for the society. Like, I think in Australia, if you're in academics, you have to do outreach. So I think that's the thing that we're lacking here. Probably it has to go through university as well. So the government has to put the university and the academics as their maybe like the part of the big plan for the artisan sector. Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you so much. So we have gonna have another session of 3 questions. I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3. Right.
Thank you for the chance. My name is Nadia. I'm from Brawijaya University. I would like to ask to Dr. Vanessa how to creating trust for the crowdfunding. If I am not a famous person, or maybe my student, they still have the startup and then they don't have the track list record, and then how to convince other person. Okay, and then my second question is for Professor Noel, is how to attract your millennial students, because for example, nowadays, like you say before, how people always connected with the smartphone because they getting the pleasure. So maybe you can share to all of us, maybe for the facilitator or maybe for the lecture, how to creating or how to attract your millennial students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amalia, graduated from University of Illinois, USA. I think my question is quite general, so any of you can answer this. We understand that the people who get benefits from the digital economy are the ones who can access the mobile phone and the ones who can access the internet. So I think they are concentrated in Java Island. So I think, I don't know, like I was thinking that the macroeconomic approach to understand the impact of digital economy is quite Java bias maybe. Okay, but anyway, so my question is, how can this digital economy contribute to reduce the inequality? Because we know that if all the transactions happen in Java Island, then what happened with other people who live in outside the Java Island? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Fajar. I'm from School of Business and Management, ITB. So I really am interested with the discussion of e-commerce. So my question would specifically goes to Prof. Didi and Mas Destya. So we all know that not only the society in Indonesia are more reluctant to go cashless, but I just read the research from McKinsey, but they also said that 63% of Indonesian shoppers are more into bricks and mortars. They're less keen to try new products and brands. Therefore, my question is, what can actually the e-commerce players in Indonesia do to tackle this challenge, especially for Bukalapak that doesn't do COD, and Bukalapak only focuses on C2C market, right? So then, how do the e-commerce players in Indonesia can tackle this issue, as well as how much this issue would affect or hinder us to achieve the potential of 2022? Thank you.
Okay, so I have one question for Vanessa, one question for Professor Scott.
Yeah, so in terms of crowdfunding, it's really interesting, all the kind of entrepreneurial finance that's occurring with crowdfunding. So kind of the three main, websites, that we kind of talk about in Australia are GoFundMe, but that's GoFundMe for like social kind of individual projects, and then Kickstarter, which is for more technology kind of ideas, and Kickstarter, if you go to the website, you can see some really interesting videos about it, and there's been some really good examples from businesses in Melbourne, that have done a video. It's really cheap for them to put up, so they do like a video, and then they talk about their story, and then they get investors in terms of promising money, and there's one famous example that I can think of with socks. They just selling socks, but they did a really nice video, really interesting, and they made a lot of money from that. So that's Kickstarter. And then like in social enterprises, there's Kiva.org. So Kiva is looking at, in terms of like farming, agriculture, forestry, more, social enterprises and crowdfunding. So getting people engaged, but also being part of the development process, which is interesting. And it's looking at finance in a completely different way. In the past, it was just banks. And there's also the example like Grameen Bank, in terms of, only lending like, $10 or $20, and without contracts, but they've got higher repayment rates than traditional banks. So there's a lot of really interesting ways with crowdfunding.
Question. This is a difficult question. How to attract the attention of millennial students? Like I'm really interested in.
So yes, a very good question, and I can only talk from an Australian context, so I don't know if millennials in Indonesia are different. I've been thinking about three things. So one, attention span. So try and keep things shorter and more a video and more interactive. So in many situations, for example, the academic context, people will have a video maximum 3 to 5 minutes, perhaps, where you have one message and then you stop and then you go on to the next idea. So you're bringing the bits of information into smaller packages. In terms of, you mentioned it, Vanessa. It's in Australia, millennials, if you want to attract their attention, have some social enterprise. So it's about having a cause or something that they can contribute to. It will attract their attention. And perhaps that's reflected in that that social enterprise app that you're talking about. And then more generally, and this is probably in part from my own situation, because I've got 3 children, all millennials. What they want is to be the boss today. They want to advance and get into business or to do something, and they don't want to have to wait. So somehow you have to give them the rewards of achieving something, but perhaps more immediately than waiting for 5 or 10 years for the next promotion. I don't know how, but those are just some ideas from my own experience.
All right. So we have another question for Mas Destya and Pak Didi about the C2C market. Oh, so we're gonna answer this question, and we're gonna answer the general question from Mbak Amalia about the how digital economy contribute to inequality. I think we start from Prof. Didi and then Mas Destya. And then, right, thank you.
Right, this is something that I have presented before, how the e-commerce can help the community and society to improve their economy. For example, we can buy something from Sumatra. We can buy empek-empek maybe, or durian ucok from Medan just right away, and they can send it to our door. So it is very beneficial for communities and sellers as well in the in terms of improving their economy. So there are some ways that we can help those things to be happen. For example, in my presentation, the first thing that we have to improve is that infrastructure. So that's why the government pushed the infrastructure everywhere in Indonesia. Although there are some criticism in regarding the infrastructure, but unfortunately we need it. That is one way that we can sell the product through the infrastructure. How the product from remote area in Papua, in Sumatra, in Kalimantan or in Sulawesi, they can send it to Jakarta or even overseas, and they can export it through Australia maybe. So it is the only way that they can send the product through the toll road, through the highway or harbor, as well as the airport. So the key is infrastructure. Another thing that we can improve is that cashless society. As we know that not so many Indonesian exposed to the bank account. So according to the McKinsey, we only have around 45%. So it is very low comparing to our neighbor. So the government should do something to improve the financial problem. I mean, it's not the individual problem, but the policy of the government to attract people to be to use the bank. Another thing that we can use is that helping medium and small enterprise to go online. So it is no barrier to entry. I mean, everyone invited. Everyone can jump to the internet. But the problem is how to attract the crowd to visit your website or to see your Instagram or to see your Facebook before you can sell it. So they need training, they need facilitating for the government. So the government can plays important roles to push the MSME so that they can sell their product through the internet. So and the more important thing is that the government not only facilitating the individual who want to use the internet or to sell something, but also to push another or many others unicorn in Indonesia, so they can attract millions of sellers. As you said in Destya, in your Bukalapak, you got 3 million sellers. Yeah, so that's very big things to improve our economy. One unicorn, let's say one unicorn can attract 3 million sellers. You can imagine if we get another 4 or another 10 unicorns, that's very big impact for our economy. According to McKinsey as well, around 30% of the sellers they are women. So once you talk about the online commerce, you talk about women as well. I mean, they can create their own product at home, while they can sell it everywhere without needing to migrate to other countries, or they don't need to go to the urbanization to Jakarta or any other big cities. So it is very important for the government to provide or facilitating e-commerce if they want to improve the GDP or Indonesian economy, as well to overcome the socio-economic problem in Indonesia. I think that's my answer for the question. Pradityo?
Yeah, we admit that majority current condition, our transaction came from big cities in Java Island. It costs the infrastructure in Java Islands better than the others, but yeah, the key is infrastructure, same like Prof. Didi mentioned before. The key is infrastructure. We believe our government now focusing to develop, spread out the Java Island, especially in telecommunication, technology, financial institution outside the Java Island. From our database, Q on Q, quarter on quarter, for our condition now, the growth transaction came from non-Java Island is double-digit percentage. The growth, only the growth. So it makes sense. We are optimistic. The economic, especially in digital economic, it can help easier to spread out all Indonesia area. So not only in Java, but we can touch Sulawesi or Papua. Especially for now, the lowest transaction came from East Indonesia. So needs time, but when the infrastructure ready at there, we believe we can help the economic condition with the digital business. The growth is very fast. Same like the question, the opportunity regarding the cash issue basis. So for now, we conduct only the electronic payment channel. We won't create the new habit for our customer. How to get the growth is very fast, exponentially. It can start from the promotion or direct discount. So we build the condition. If you using the electronic payment channel, you get more advantage than conventional channel like cash. So we hope this way is very can help to create the market, the new market, especially for the digital payment area. Hopefully it clarified, ya Mas ya, from ITB. Thank you.
So the question about inequality was for all of the speakers. Yeah. So yeah.
So I think that's really interesting about the technology inequality, and it's kind of a growing issue in terms of, particularly in terms of jobs too, like in the future. So, you know, the high-tech technology that is being emphasized, but at the same time, we need people to, you know, do manual labor, open doors, and that, you know, that's important too. So, you know, I think, you know, there's, for example, in Australia, there's a joke, you know, are you a barista or a barrister? You know, so being a barista, a coffee maker is, you know, is classified as being really good, you know, but they say, no, I'm not a barrister, a solicitor, a lawyer, I'm a barista, you know, a coffee maker, and that's considered really, like, cool. You know, so in terms of the digital economy, I think, you know, there's a lot of emphasis on startups, but, you know, in terms of the inequality, I think it's a really really, emerging issue, that we kind of have to think about, because not everybody's going to be like a, tech billionaire. People still need different types of jobs and people have different skill sets. So I think it's, interesting in terms of what we do in the future, in terms of that kind of growing inequality in society.
Okay, I think that's the answer for the inequality. Is it good? Right. Okay. Yeah, I think we're just gonna close the session by maybe a couple of sentence closing statement from each speaker. Starting from Vanessa and then you go there.
So I think the digital economy is really interesting, but I think it's really interesting too in terms of being at universities as researchers and teachers, what we do and how we integrate. So it's completely changing. So the example that Professor Noel talked about with students in Melbourne, there was a really famous example of a lecturer at Deakin University, and he had a class and nobody turned up, and it became this social media viral thing, and everybody tweeted about it, and he said, I'm old school. When we make appointments, we come to class, but none of his students came to class. And, in a way, we have to kind of think about, from the students' perspective, because they can get a lot of things online. So our classes are online, they've got all the resources, and then when they want to interact, they do interact. So I think it's really interesting and it's really exciting, particularly in terms of the digital economy, and also for Indonesia. So the statistics kind of given about in terms of fastest growing economy, in terms of users for Twitter and Facebook, but also as an emerging economy powerhouse. I think it's really interesting. What's going to happen in Indonesia, but also, in terms of Australia too. So hopefully there'll be, more cross-border connections, in terms of business, but also education, both in terms of teaching and research. Thanks.
Thank you. I guess in summary, the world's changing fast, and digitalization is a typical example of that. How do people respond? How do you respond to change? Well, I think it's about education and learning about new things rather than just doing what's happened in the past. That places a lot of emphasis or a lot of responsibility on academics, who are the people who are training the next generation. So as academics, what we have to be doing is understanding how that change is occurring and changing our education or our practice to match those changes in society. And it's a difficult time. Universities typically aren't good at changing rapidly, but they have to. And that will be not just for universities, for themselves as organizations, but in terms of individually academics, in terms of their research. We need to be doing different things. So if you're still doing the same research as you did 10 years ago, well, that's not so good. Thank you.
Okay, from us, we believe that digital industry, especially in economy activity, will be the main pillars for the next few years. So for you as academic or researchers, let's focus how to find a way to create the new market or new segment to get the good growth for Indonesia economy. Yeah.
Okay, short comment about the e-commerce in Indonesia. For academician, there are a lot of opportunities to be topic of research. So just following the new information, new progress in terms of e-commerce, you can find out a lot of opportunities. The thing is that we need to collaborate with the corporates to get the data. As one of the questions suggests that they sometimes got a problem to get the data from the companies. So it is also asking for Pradityo, ya, bahwa
we need to be given access to be get the data. So sometimes we got a problem to get the real data. So I think that's it from my. Okay.
Thank you so much. So with a closing statement from Professor Didi Achjari, that's the end of our plenary session today. We would like to thank all of the speakers for the interesting talk and interesting discussion. I hope you enjoy Jogja. And for the audience, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for actively participating. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. That's all from me, from the moderator. Thank you so much. Is it good morning? No, not anymore. Almost good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ms. Sekar, for moderating our session today and for all the speakers who shared their experiences and knowledge. Please give them a round of applause again.
For those who would like to have an access to the PowerPoint that was shown before, you may do so by going onto the Super Event apps, and the info has already been emailed to you. Thank you and see you tomorrow.